Flame guide the Ashen One. Do you have a moment to speak about Gwyn? Despite his sacrifice as the first Lord of Cinder, Gwyn still has much to teach us. I mean, except for parenting, right? I mean, his eldest alone. Yikes. Now that I think about it, not much to teach us about tolerance or peace either. After all, he segregated an entire group of people based on their, darkness. Oh, wow, that really sounds bad when you say it aloud. Anyway, after that, he proceeded to hunt an entire race of sentient beings into extinction. Just for sport, followed by, and I'm not joking here, an attack on a third group that took place in a firestorm, which qualifies as the literal definition of a Holocaust. Oh, and forget law and order, or personal liberty. Once, for political payback, he made an unhinged, treasonous serial abductor part of the ruling aristocracy, and his youngest, the Dark Son, was forced to live as a woman because... Hold up, why did you even do that? Okay, here it is. Because the moon is a girl. No, it's not. It's a fucking rock. Okay, yeah, in some languages, it is attributed a feminine noun gender, like Latin, but just as many languages have a masculine association, including Japanese. Good God, what the hell is wrong with this guy? He is like the worst parts of Heihachi and Hitler. I don't see how anyone likes him. Although, I am starting to see why all those messages in Anne Orlando said, "Way of whites only." Welcome to the Game Table. I'm Fauntus, and this is What's in a Name, the language of Dark Souls. Today, we are talking about gods, their names, domains, relationships, all in an attempt to make sense of this confusing pantheon, apparently headed by Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. First of Cinder, possible violation of Godwin's Law. Gwyn traces its roots back to some of the earliest versions of Sindarin, but it includes Gwen, large or big, Gwan, pale, Gwain, fair, and Gwen, Gwyn, and Gwyn, female, woman, or maiden, and all of which are pretty appropriate. But I also believe the choice of the old word itself is significant. Being a piece of the past that continues to influence the world is, along with the size, the sunlight, and the daughters, all aspect of his design. Those aspects, when considered with the character's methods and actions, such as waging a war against the previous world order, building a great city, and the use of lightning as a weapon, with his eventual sacrifice to extend the Age of Fire, each of those events are indications that Gwyn belongs to a mythological archetype called the Sky, or Allfather. These gods are the leaders of pantheons. Some examples include Zeus, Marduk, Indra, Odin, and oddly enough, Gwyn's own uncle Lloyd, from Quenyan, Loita, the Failure. No wonder Kareem trashes him. He sucks. His nephew did all the work. Of course, Gwyn, being a proper father god, proceeds to, father gods, each as different as the domains they personify. Let's start with Guinevere, Princess of Sunlight, from Sindarin, Gwyn, the Maiden, and Quenyan, Vir, the Oath or Bond. She's the Maiden of the Oath, a royal lady from a legendary city, protected by holy knights, and involved with a quest to retrieve the Lord's sacred cup. Well, that's about as subtle as her wardrobe. Let's talk about the Dark Sun. Gwyndolin, from Sindarin, Gwen, the Maiden, or the Pale, and Sindarin, Dolin, the Secret, the Pale Secret, the Secret Maiden. In the intro I said calling the moon feminine doesn't make sense, because just as many languages and cultures make a masculine association. And this is true. Germanic, Japanese pantheons all have moon gods, not goddesses. Even in cultures where the gods change, there seems to be one constant. The sun and moon will always be the opposite gender. In Japan and India, there are pantheons with sun goddesses and moon gods. The same in Middle-earth. Which begs the question, did Gwyn force Gwyndolin because Gwyndolin wasn't really the moon? Or because Gwyn was no longer the sun god? We'll come back to that. Right now, let's talk about a city in Middle-earth that bears a mention. Gondolin, meaning hidden in the rocks. A great city whose residents also battled demons and dragons, and would eventually fall to treachery. Gondolin was also remembered for blades, which glowed in the presence of evil, such as Orcrist, glamdring, even sting, a glow very reminiscent of the miracle taught to Gwendolyn's blades of the dark moon. Now, if we're going to be talking dark moon blades, we better talk about the current commander, Company Captain Yorshka, from Quenyan, Yor, blood, and Quenyan, Iska, pale white, the pale blood. Now, this could mean that she is the young pale girl perceived as Aldrich grubbed down, which opens up all sorts of questions regarding how and why his soul turns into the life hunt scythe, especially when we learn that Priscilla is Quenyan, per, half, and Quenyan, Isilia, the moon's sheen, the glimmer, moonlight. So Priscilla is half moonlight. Now, does that mean she is related to Gwendolyn? Or is that half as in better half, meaning that Priscilla and Gwendolyn means the little slither patter of baby Yorshka limbs? Well, perhaps neither. And Priscilla is related to, if not the, moon deity that Gwendolyn replaced. Who knows? Let's move on to someone connected to another of Gwyn's descendants, Rosaria, Mother of Rebirth, which can be from the Quenyan Rota, trespass or dead, Quenyan Sa, which is an intensifier for Ria, which makes it the gift or the objective. Rosaria, trespass to collect the gift, invade to acquire the objective. But her name can also mean Sindarin, Rosta, to hollow out, excavate, Re, alone, and Ia, the abyss, to hollow alone in the abyss. It looks like someone had oh wait, is LiveJournal still a thing? It has to be. Where else would all the emo kids? Unless, are emo kids still a thing? Man, when you have kids, it can feel like you've been sealed away from the outside world. Just like Philia Nor, who I've previously defined as Quenyan, Philia, the fine strand or thread, and Nor, the origin, roots. Her name has a similar sound to Vilya, which is sky, and would result in Vilya Nor, the origin of the sky. That is an idiomatic way of saying heaven, and the center of a Go board. Go is a game that centers around light and dark, life and death, which is determined by the game concept of eyes, which can be alive, dead, or false. Our Philia Nor has false eyes, so the moment we interact, we see the truth. Let's talk about Gwyn's firstborn. General consensus says it's the Nameless King, but a theory that the Ferosa god Farum refers to the same entity is a bit more controversial. Let's explore. Both are gods of war. The Nameless King was a deific hunter of dragons, and the helm of the Farum Knight depicts a warrior facing a dragon. These knights were known for a nimble two-handed sword technique, reminiscent of the sword spear. So what does the name Farum say? Farum is from Quenyan, Farah, to hunt, and Am is, well, it's literally up, but it's used as an intensifier. So the greatest hunter, or the highest. Also carries an implication of being sacred. Think Aman, the blessed realm, or undying lands. So Farum could be the hunter of the undying, or the everlasting, as in an everlasting dragon, deepening the possible connection with Gwyn's firstborn. Moving on to the rest of the non-Gwyn pantheon, the first stop is Old Man Macloif, a healing god mentioned in Dark Souls 1. From Sindarin, Mac, kill, death, or slay, and Luth, a charm or ward. He's literally a charm against death. Though in a game series whose premise is playing a character primarily defined as undead, this makes him about as useless as Lloyd. Oh well, I'd still rather be in his church than a temple for the goddess of the embrace. Fina, who deprives her champions of all but their wits and reflexes, which is why her name comes from Sindarin, Fina, cunning or dexterity, as in skill, though distinct from a skill that is practiced or learned. For that, we look to Kreml, god of struggle, from Quenyan, Kuru, skill of the hand or practice, and Mel, to love, Kreml, for the love of skill. Reddit has chose its patron deity well. Skill is a wonderful thing, but a little luck goes a long way. This is the domain of Caffrey, goddess of fortune, from Sindarin, Cathre, a treasure. A treasure is a ribbon, given to grant good fortune. When a knight asked for a lady's favor, she would grant it by tying a treasure onto his weapon or armor. Now before the next couple of definitions, I'm going to provide a little context. The Elvish etymologies were not necessarily meant for the wider public. It's a design tool meant to keep the various stages of development consistent. The next two gods, who only appear on the name engraving, together make a juvenile, crude joke. So remember that this is not meant to target or exclude anyone. It's just a joke. The gods in question are Nema, goddess of love, and Hanleth, goddess of bliss. The latter is from Quenyan, Han, give, and Leth, release. Bliss is the gift of release. And as for love, Quenyan, Netta, honey, and Ma, hands. Honey hands. And that's honey as sticky or oozing, distinct from honey as sweet. So love is honey hands, and bliss is the gift of release. No wonder Seath was blind. Well, I'm only about halfway through this list, so we better split this into a two-parter. Come back for part 2 of Gods, talk about Nito, the Witch of Izalith, and we see if any of this moon nonsense pays off. I'm Fauntus, and I hope to see you there for What's in a Name, the Language of Dark Souls.